Okay, quick video by popular demand. Can the government unilaterally create a mandatory requirement for every single adult in the UK to have a digital ID card? Is it possible? Is it legal? Is it likely? A few of those things I will address very quickly in this video. Short video, I promise. Now, this has been done before. It's been attempted before. Now, addressing those questions in turn, can the government unilaterally just decide that this is going to happen? The short answer is no. It requires legislation, because not only have they tried to do this before and it failed, the Identity Cards Act of 2006, now standing repealed, tried to introduce this back for 2009, but obviously it was kicked back again by Conservatives. Now, any such step like this for a mandatory ID would impose such a mandate on individuals that it would require new legislation, new primary legislation, or at the very least amending existing legislation to make this a requirement. Not least of which then there would need to be various other statutory instruments, secondary legislation to enforce this and any rules that they put around it. And that in itself is going to take a long time, and it's going to need to go through both houses of Parliament. It's got to go through the House of Commons first, through all of the steps to create new legislation, and then it's got to go through the House of Lords with no one creating any significant objection, which we're already seeing, which I'll come back to in a moment. So ultimately, they cannot just unilaterally decide, this is what we're doing, tough for anyone that disagrees, we are doing it whether you like it or not. Regardless of how forthright Starmer sounds in his video and says, you will not be able to work unless you have a digital ID, that's just not necessarily the case. So I'm here to tell you two things. One is don't worry too much, because it's just not likely to happen. But two, absolutely, please do worry about it and tell your MP that you want them to sign this letter that Rupert Lowe has put to other ministers, all parties, he says, to get this letter signed. Let me show you this here. This is from Rupert Lowe. He says, very pleased to add Ayub Khan to the cross-party letter opposing digital ID. If any MP wants to sign, get in touch. All have been invited: Conservative, Reform, SNP, your party, Lib Dems, Labour, all support is welcome. He says, ask your MP to sign. Now, I'm not encouraging anybody to harass anybody here, so do it politely, but email your MP and say, please sign this letter with Rupert Lowe to join in support to stand against this. That is the way that this will not work. And so I say don't worry because it's not likely to happen, but do worry because it's more likely to happen if you do nothing about it. So this letter here that Rupert Lowe is inviting others to sign says as follows: Dear Prime Minister, we are writing to register our profound and passionate opposition to your reported plans for compulsory UK-wide digital identity scheme. Such a policy would represent an unprecedented level of state control over British citizens. This is a fundamental change to the relationship between the individual and the state. It's dangerous, intrusive, deeply un-British. It risks building the foundations of a surveillance state, one that will inevitably expand in scope over time. And I can personally assure you that will be the case. That's just how these things work. We urge you to abandon these plans immediately. At the very least, you must commit to bringing any proposal before Parliament, before scrutiny and a free vote, and to fully consulting the public before attempting to impose such a drastic measure on a reluctant country. The British people do not want this, and the British people do not need this. Compulsory digital ID would mark a dangerous and permanent shift in the balance of power between government and governed. We will oppose it at every stage. Now, the reason that I say it will require primary legislation is because there is currently no law that mandates this, no law that can enforce this, and there is just nothing that allows them the remit to bring in a blanket requirement that all adults have one of these ID cards. There just isn't yet the law to support it. Speaking of support, if you want to support me, please do subscribe to my number of growing channels here. I'll be very grateful. I would love to get my main channel to 1 million subscribers, and the others are growing very nicely. Thank you so much. The middle one there in green, the 5555, is my money channel, as I call it, helping you to create and retain wealth. So thank you so much for the support over on those channels. So as I said, they will need new legislation that they will have to introduce into Parliament in order to enact this requirement. They say that they're doing a consultation that's going to last a few months and hoping to introduce it into Parliament early next year. So you will have to urge your MP to stand against this. As a whole constituency, you will have to say, if you as an MP want our community support, you will have to stand against this. And stand against it, many people are. There are 1.6 million signatures now to this petition, and it's growing rapidly, to say do not introduce digital ID cards. So this is going to force it, hopefully, into a debate in Parliament where all of these views can be aired. But the alarming thing will be is if there is a tidal wave of support for this from Labour, because that will mean that they might be able to push it through, which is why you absolutely must insist that your MP stands against it. So check out Rupert Lowe's letter. I'll link it below. But then there are obviously the questions about, well, what if you don't comply? And what if you just don't get one? Now, on the one hand, they are saying they're not going to fine people or things of this nature, but they're saying you will have to have it to work. But I really don't see how that's going to work. If they require everybody to have one, otherwise they can't work, what if they don't get one? And therefore there's a mass protest and standing against this. It will be Starmer's poll tax moment. But if anyone wants a bit of a preview as to how bad this could possibly get, this was the Identity Cards Act of 2006 when they tried this before. Now, if you go through 20 of these sections, you'll see that they've been repealed because this act was, of course, repealed. But if we have a look, we can still see the remnants of what this was. And you see here, National ID Register, individuals entered the register, designation of documents for the purpose of registration, ID cards for compulsorily registered, functions of a person issuing the documents, power to require information validating the register, notification of changes, invalidity or surrender of ID cards. There was the power to provide checks for the register, the prohibition on requirements, public authorities and their access to it, prevention and detection of crime. So doubtless they could have access to who you are, where you are, what you're doing for purposes of prevention of crime. And believe me, that is government overreach. Power to authorize provision of information in other circumstances. So they can just create powers to provide information about you, whatever they like, whenever they like, to whomever they like. Providing false information, presumably, I think that was an offence of providing false information. And then obviously civil penalties, fines, objecting to them, and all sorts of other things. Fees in respect of it, they're saying that it's free, not that anyone wants it. But there are a significant number of reasons to be concerned about this. So I would just urge you, the way that law is made and repealed in this country is by your MP and whether they support this or not. The idea is they represent you. They shouldn't just be representing a party, although so often, and this is what I hate about politics, so often if they stand against a party policy, they get kicked out of the party. So very often they'll vote in line with the party, not in line with their constituents. So you as the constituents have to tell your MP what you want. Else you have to tell them, well, next round we'll vote you out. So one thing I'll say is this, my parting word for this video. If they do somehow get this through and start making it wind its way forward, I'd be putting pressure on other parties, all of the other parties, if they fancy their chance in power next time round, they need to stand firmly against it, and they need to continue to stand firmly against it. That goes for Conservatives, Reform, Advance UK, anyone else that decides that they want to run at power. They have to draw a line in the sand and make this absolutely clear. So those are my thoughts for this. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I think it is staggeringly dangerous, but let me know your thoughts. Please do subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate that. Thanks for helping me grow. And I've enjoyed my pro bono work of late. So thank you for the support on that as well. In the meantime, I'll see you next time.